Oh boy.
Hi, Jeff. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I'm actually at home. I'm going to.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is the Mansfield School Building Committee, Thursday, August 25th, 2022 meeting. Welcome. Our first item on the agenda is the approval of our August 11, 2022 meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Thank you, Mary. Is there a second? Okay, Madison, any corrections to the minutes? Okay, seeing none, then all in favor of approving the August 11 minutes, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, thanks.
Randy, can I just make one comment? It doesn't really need to be changed in the minutes, but we refer to Lauren Rodriguez as principal of Southeast Elementary School.
Okay,
Seeing
fair
it's no
point. That
longer
should
with
now,
us, we might want
that
to
should now
change the
be
title.
Mansfield Elementary School. Okay, thanks for making that point. We have a couple of guests that are joining us, so if it's okay with the committee, I would like to have Cynthia Van Zelm and Glenn, is it Swantak?
You got it. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who are here representing the town's work in signage and wayfinding. And this has impact on the sign at the new elementary school. And we saw the proposal from that, but I have asked Cynthia and Glenn to come here tonight and talk about the town's efforts in signage and wayfinding, kind of what the history is, and then we can talk about signage. And I don't know, Adam, I don't know if you have another preface before they talk, but
the only thing I would add is we've got a number of things on the docket tonight for consideration, and I know there's the Board of Education meeting. So just as a preamble to everyone, there's a lot to get through. So just keep that in mind. You know, that shouldn't limit any conversations or anything, but just know that there's a lot coming.
Okay. So last time we saw the copy or an image of the sign, and there was some discussion about whether the sign should be larger or smaller or things like that. But I've asked Cynthia and Glenn to come here today to talk about the history of how we've gotten to that point and kind of how this fits into what the town is doing overall with signage. So Cynthia, I don't know if you want to talk just a little bit about what the town's, the history of what's going on and how this fits in with all the other municipal buildings here in town.
Sure, I'm happy to do that, and thank you for the opportunity, and hello to the School Building Committee. I'll try to be brief, and Glenn is here for any technical questions that you may have regarding the signage, but there's definitely a history. So I just wanted to go back to December 2018. That is when the town and the Board of Ed Positioning and Marketing Development Plan was completed. And that plan included the new logo and tagline for the town. And one of the key recommendations that came out of the plan was to develop town gateway and park signage. Following the approval of the plan, a town and partnership staff marketing team was put in place and met regularly for over a year. That team did include former Superintendent Kelly Lyman. 2 gateway signs were designed and installed by ArtFX in fall 2021 through a competitive bid process. And I know there's been some reference to those 2 gateway signs. As continued follow-up to the positioning marketing plan, the staff signage team developed a request for proposals for a comprehensive Mansfield signage and wayfinding plan based on the recommendation of the positioning and marketing plan. And Merge, of which Glenn is one of the principals, was selected as the consultant team for the plan. One of the early things that we did was to hold stakeholder meetings in February of 2022 with several groups, including Mansfield Schools leadership, town departments, town committees, and representatives of key destinations in Mansfield. UConn was also represented for coordination purposes. After the stakeholder meeting, a follow-up survey was conducted on how best to direct visitors and residents to the town's assets. And that was sent to the stakeholders as well as the general public and advertised widely. In spring of 2022, after input had been gathered, Merge presented a set of initial potential designs to the staff steering team, and revisions were made and a final design was approved in mid-April. Following that meeting, we followed up with stakeholders with a meeting on May 3rd to present those, the process and then the final design. As part of that process, we also included as invitees the Town Council, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the Economic Development Commission. So over the last couple of months, Merge has been focusing on developing a destination list and is currently finalizing the locations of the signs. So the goal, the next goal is to implement the first phase of the signage and wayfinding program in spring of 2023. The town council has allocated $100,000 in this fiscal year for that purpose. So that's, I hope, a pretty comprehensive overview, and happy to answer any questions that the chair or others may have.
Okay, so there were a few sort of observations last time. There was a question about the size of the sign. And this might be something that we point more towards Glenn. And a question about the comparison of the sign on the southern entrance. And that sign is at the southern entrance is 8 feet tall by, it's like
Yes, it's 8 feet tall. Yes.
sign and what is being contemplated at the elementary school. Can you guys, am I cutting out?
You can just cut out a little bit, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm coming to you from the district offices, so hopefully if it cuts out too much, let me know, because I can't
Okay.
always tell. But the signage at the big sign, the sign at the southern entrance that we was asked about last time is a much larger sign
Mhm.
than what is contemplated at the elementary school. And so Glenn, you want to talk about the size of the sign and how that works for
Yeah, sure.
people going by the road?
Yeah, the overall size of the sign, including the stone base of the Mansfield Elementary School sign, is approximately 7'6", about. So it is close to the height of the sign that's out on that you were referencing, the other gateway sign. We sized the sign according to the placement of where it was going to be installed. Initially, when we looked at the plans, there was a proposal to do 2 signs that were, I guess, either smaller or positioned. The goal was to maybe reduce that to 1 sign. Because it's 1 sign, it has to be read from both directions, and it is set back a little bit from the roadway. We opted to scale it a little bit larger so that it would be visible as you're driving from both directions. I would say, when you're talking about the size and scale of an object or a sign, you look at it and you look at it in the drawings and the elevation views, you look, oh my God, that's so large. But when you actually put it out into the environment, it really starts to shrink down. You'd be surprised at the size of a stop sign if you were holding that in an office or in your office, how big that would look. But when you're out in the environment, it's actually appropriate for scale. All that being said, we think we sized it appropriately for that. But we can also do sizing mock-ups if there's still concern that sign size is too big. If we're just talking about scale, it would just mean, reducing it, 80% or 75%, and to see what that would look like. Maybe do a full-size mock-up or print out on foam core, take it out there, look at it and see how that would work. then that wouldn't require a lot of change to the, you know, to the drawings if we had to do something like that. And it's sort of typical of when you get to the final stages of implementation, you probably want to do some kind of a mock-up.
Okay, Chris first, and then I saw Jeff's hand up.
Actually, Jeff had his hand up first. If he wants to
sorry.
go, I will acquiesce and be second.
Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
No, as this conversation continues, I think it's great. I think one thing that I would initially react to is the sight lines. We just want to make sure that this sign, whatever size it is, and where the location is, doesn't impede on anybody coming out and going into the school, because I don't want any blind spots. There's a whole series of planning and zoning sight lines that we got to pay attention to, even on the placement, let alone the size of this thing. So I just wanted to note that as well.
If I can comment on that, we did look at those sight lines. We did a site triangle study in plan. The way that sign, it is set back from the stop line of where people are pulling out of the school, because it's also positioned on the left side. That is also helpful. It doesn't, you know, it's not on the right side where you'd be pulling out. And yeah, so you can see on the screen now, I don't know who just pulled that up, but thank you.
Yeah, I just did.
Yeah, where the stop line is, we want to position it right where the fencing is now currently, on the left side there.
Other
Right here?
entrance, other entrance, Jeff.
Oh yeah, that's the wrong entrance. That's a different entrance.
This one, yeah, right here,
Yeah, exactly.
or right here.
Yes. Well, no, we don't want to put it out that far. We want to position it back a little bit on the property line there. I'm assuming that's the property line where the hedges and the fence are. Perpendicular to parallel to the roadway.
Out here,
Well, we want to avoid the state right of way.
right.
And so set back, and there's a tree there that's indicated that's a new tree. And so it would go about where that is.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, okay, now Chris, you want to go ahead with your question?
Thanks. Yeah. So part of what we discussed last time was lots of different things, but the overall size of the sign being too big is, several of us had that feeling. And we wonder, there was some other discussion about perhaps changing some of the elements of the sign and da-da-da-da-da. I think for ease of discussion, it might be best if we did some versions of the sign, as you suggest, Glenn, on foam core, that we could see at half the size of the projected sign right now. And if others have some ideas of other incremental sizes, that would be good to talk about. But we had a few thoughts about it. One being, in this day and age, how public do we want to, how much do we want to shout out there that this is where the elementary school is? People that need to know it will know it. And we had also contemplated having just a discrete sign on the edge of the roofing over the front door. All the people that will be attending the school will have correspondence sent to them about where it is and all of that. So I know you have to have some practical things for delivery and things like that, but I didn't even see a number on the sign that was proposed at the 7.5 feet tall. So it's not like we're doing that for UPS to find us or any other place. So I personally would like to see what it looks like at half the scale that it was proposed at.
Okay, Adam, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just for the purposes of kind of giving some scale off of some of the stuff that's on the site right now, I was going to share my screen real quick. So you'll see the sign here. So this is 7 feet, 5.5 foot. Sorry about that. Basically a 5 by 5 foot panel that's 7 feet by 7 feet approximately. When you look at the existing site, the Newfield sign here, and I'm standing in the middle of the road here. So presumably if you were a car, this sign is 8 feet wide. This sign is 5 feet wide. So, and they're a little bit closer to the road actually than the proposed sign would be. So at a 5 by 5 foot panel size that we were talking about, this is what it would look like from the road. And in terms of the letter height, the E and the W in Newfield, that's larger than the largest text on this sign. The sign that they're proposing has 5.5-inch letters. The E and the W were 6.5-inch. So just for food for thought for the committee in terms of, what this would approximately look like, the distance from the road, the overall sign dimensions, to give you some sense of what a 7 by 7 and then a 5 by 5 foot panel within that 7 by 7 foot would look like.
Right. So the perspective is very different than what you would imagine when you're standing next to it. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. I think though the difference here is that there's only 3 lines of text on our sign and there's a lot more text on those other signs. But I appreciate the perspective very
Oh yeah,
much.
that's just data. That's all.
Yeah, so, maybe my half sign gets up to, we get a half version and we get a 3/4 version. And my mistake, I did not remember that the address was on the sign, so thank you very much. But I'm concerned about the scale of the sign, so.
Okay. Tony?
This is going to be a very foundational question. What's the purpose of the sign? It seems to me that one of the purposes of signs outside of schools is to announce something civic, a civic virtue. We have this great school, and we are proud of this great school. And I'm wondering whether that might conflict with the purpose of excess security, which is to hide the school. But it seems to me that some discussion of what we want this sign to accomplish is worth having.
Can I address some of that just from
Sure, go ahead, Glenn.
our design process? We're looking at this holistically, and we're thinking about not just a single site, right? So we're looking at that, like what you said is correct. It is civic pride. That's why we included the new Mansfield logo and the Mansfield Public Schools on there. This will be at the high school. It'll be at the elementary school. So it's looking at it as a system. So wherever you are in Mansfield, you realize, oh, that's part of the town's overall brand and overall message, and a matter of civic pride. So you're right. It not only identifies the location, but it's also done in the colors of the system and with the logo, so that it shows that it's all part of the community.
Chris Kiefner?
Yeah, I don't know, Glenn, if you watched any of the video of the meeting from last time, but the whole issue was the size. It's the scale of this thing and the height of it and so forth. And I think you could accomplish a lot of what we're after by shrinking it, by moving you've got a lot of blank space on there where the logo is way up and the lettering is way down. And if you put those on the same plane, same level, same line, you'd accomplish a lot of what I think we're after. And if you deleted, and I think you can accomplish it and still get your same feel. I disagree with the whole, not you're arguing for it, but I think the whole idea of towns branding stuff is kind of a little over the top in my mind. As an old schooler, I just live here kind of guy. But the other thing you can do is delete the posts on the side and just reduce the whole volume of the thing. I think that's one of the surprising things for people when they see the entryway signs. It's just this volume of stuff, and it's a little strong to say in your face, but there's a little bit of that. So anyhow, I think tightening it up, bringing it down were the main things we said, and I think you can make it less wide by getting rid of the posts, keeping the same kind of swale over the top, whatever it's called, sweep. But we just said again and again, smaller.
Jeff, go ahead. Oh, sorry, and then Rich, and then Madison, sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to share my screen quick again here. Let's see. The only thing I want to just make sure that we note between Glenn and his team and my team, if this thing does move forward in the direction I think it's going to go, Can you see the screen again with the landscape?
Yes, we can.
So we have a 4-foot high metal gate fence that wraps around the property here. So at some point, I think I'm gonna have to sit down with them if this proceeds further and just discuss how big this is, where it's gonna go. You know, the analysis you did with the blind spots and the sight lines, just to make sure that we have the space for something that large as well. So yeah, so that's all. We have fencing that wraps around this whole thing. I think it's 4-foot high fencing. And in the back, it's like 6 feet, I believe. It's that vinyl fence back there. So not a big area here for a sign. It could work, but we should just coordinate with both our teams, you know, from the site plan that you used, or I don't know if you had the most recent site plan, Glenn, when you were looking at your sight lines and stuff and where our fences is, or fencing
Yeah.
is in the
No, this
playgrounds.
is the one I think this is the one we were using.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're going to put it out here then?
No, there's a different plan, Jeff. Well, we can talk offline, but yes, you're
Okay.
correct. We should coordinate about it because this
Yeah.
fencing does some different things on a different.
Okay,
plan.
all right. So I'll stop the share then.
Okay, so we just, Rich, then Madison, and then Tony.
Yeah, hi. I spoke last time about maybe trying to make the sign a little bit more representative of it, signifying an elementary school. And I'm wondering, like, if we keep most of the design elements of just what we see around town, and maybe just even doing something like with changing the font so that it looks a little bit more representative of an elementary school. I don't know how other people feel about that, but I don't know. Being in the business for almost 4 decades, I'd like to see the sign reflect the fact that it is an elementary school.
Okay, let's get all the comments, then we can come back and talk about Madison.
Oh, hi, thanks. I had a question because last time we did talk about concern about the sign and its relation to safety. So I guess I just wanted to get some like expert opinion, like, are there best practices for signage at schools? I mean, is there any like information coming out lately in the last couple of years about like what are recommendations? I did notice, and thinking about I think Vinton and the middle school where I have normally driven, they're really low to the ground, like they're kind of low and wide, and I totally get why the sign looks the way it does and the coordination with the rest of the town. So like, I get that. I'm wondering if there's just best practices that we should be thinking about so that we know we've kind of followed all the best rules or best ideas just for safety's sake. And I really appreciated, Adam, seeing the scale and the signs that are up now, because that's very helpful. And it gives me a much better idea of what it might look like. So thanks.
Tony?
I would really like to see the mock-ups at the size that you proposed, and then in a couple of scales smaller. But my real question, Jeff, is a metal fence with doors, with gates? What kind of a metal fence are we talking about? I must have missed something somewhere along the line.
Oh, that's for the playground. It's a gate for around this is the sort of multi-use athletic field / softball field. So it's basically a gate to protect from the parent drop off and all the parking to the playgrounds.
So what does the fence look like? Is it solid or is it rails or what?
It's like a vertical rails, black vertical rails. Not a chain link fence in this location. It's a
Like an estate fence.
yes.
Can you see through it?
Yes.
Could a person climb through it?
No.
I would love to see a picture of it because that would have something to do in my mind with how the sign fits there. But I really think it's necessary for us to see a mock-up. I also would strongly advise against mucking around with colors, letters, etc. All of this has been really debated at great length with the design team, and I understand the desire to make it look like a kid's place, but I think the playgrounds will do that. And this is a building of which the town is very proud, and it is a town facility. We don't identify all of our buildings by their function. So I'm really not crazy about trying to change the plans that have been on the books for 3 years now.
Right. There's been a tremendous amount of work that's been put into this
Yeah.
by others. Mary?
Yeah, real quick, I just wanted to echo exactly what Tony said. I had that same reaction. I think it should just stay as is, but does the sign go with inside the fence or outside the fence?
Outside the fence.
Outside the fence. Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up here, but Adam, is next steps a reasonable thing to do some mock-ups and coordinate, I guess, with Jeff as well in terms of what exact sighting and how this might.
If that's something that Glenn and the merge team can provide as part of the overall wayfinding signage plan, just the board mock-ups and scale, then I don't see that being unreasonable in terms of a next step to give some sense of scale for the exact sign of the size of the sign and how that might permeate to the other buildings, because this throughout the town portfolio of buildings, I imagine this question might crop up again, depending upon whether it's at the middle school, the high school, the what other building. So if there's this sign mock-up that's just handy, you can take it to the other buildings to help to identify locations and whatnot. But I'm unsure of what the scope of merges services are.
If I can just show this is sort of what I'm thinking, Glenn. Just boom, get rid of the posts, get the seal down. You've accomplished a lot. And you've still kept the lettering somewhat the same size.
Okay. So perhaps we can coordinate with merge and see exactly if this is within your scope, and we can get some mock-ups.
Yeah, we'll have to, Cynthia and I will have to meet and we'll see what exactly that would be, you know, what the cost associated with that would be. For us to make a print, that's not a big deal. Just mounting it and, you know, getting it out there, that's the issue. But we'll talk and we'll come up with some. I think it is necessary, and like you said, you know, doing it for the other buildings as well, I think is going to be important.
Okay. All right, so we'll have another sign discussion. Okay, are any sort of final things that we're missing, Adam, before we move on?
Not with this item, no.
Okay. Cynthia, anything else to add here?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right, we appreciate you and Glenn both joining us today to talk signs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye.
All right, take care. Bye.
Okay. All right, then contractor update.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Al.
Everyone see the photo?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the drone photo looking north. You can see the demolition of the old school. This was taken a couple of days ago, but this whole section is down now too. So tomorrow we have just a flat pad area here. So it's going per schedule. They're doing the drainage now to the parking lot. They finished the large storm interceptor in the parking lot. Now they're working on the individual catch basins that will be inside the parking lot. So they're making some good progress there.
So Southeast School is down.
Yep, no more. This is what it was a couple of days ago. It pretty much looks like this now all through. So they started pulling foundations. So gradually we're getting more and more of the space. So this is a drone photo of the entire building looking east. This is the drone photo of B North and C East. C North. Some ground
Al,
photos.
in the last picture, and it was on the first one too, the water that's on the roof of the gym, is that a low spot? What's going on?
With this
Back
over
left corner,
here.
yep, yeah.
I think that's a shadow or something. I don't know what that is. Oh, yeah, unless it had just rained this day. Yeah, because this might have been taken after a rainstorm, but I don't see it. I don't see really a ponding of water anywhere else. These weren't taken today. These were taken yesterday morning.
Yeah, exactly. I know those trusses go to the left, or that would be what, to the south. So if it is slight ponding, it must be just some condensation or something.
Yeah. There's a ground photo of the south side of B, A building and B building, looking east. They're doing fascias and soffits now on the south side, and gutters will be starting to install next week. Well, that's another just like a duplicate shot. All right, so here we are. This is the north side of the gym. This is just about finished. They're starting on this elevation now, and they'll proceed around to the loading dock area.
If I can just say something, Al, while you're talking, see those vertical 2x that are attached to all the Z-girts there? It looks like what they've done is they have anchored with some substantial anchors at the bottom to the concrete, as well as the top of the blocking. So that basically creates a very rigid diaphragm there. So that whole issue with the screws in my field report, I think I hung on it personally, and it's not going anywhere. So if it can handle my weight, it should be fine.
Thanks for risking yourself there, Jeff.
I just want it to last.
Better test.
Yeah, this is the admin area. Yeah, and you can see the side where it had just rained when I took this picture. So that's probably where that water came from on the roof. This is a shot of the south side of wing A. The stone wall is complete except for the stone cap. We have a couple of samples set up there, and we're just waiting for review and approval from the landscape designer. And then that stone wall will be complete.
What's going to happen on that slope? I can just see kids rolling down it.
This gets terraced off and it gets landscaping all in this area.
Okay.
Yep. We're pouring sidewalks. This is the east side. This is the nook between the B wings.
And you got your sunshade brackets up on the exterior of the glass.
Yep, these guys on this boom lift are putting up the sunshade brackets on the windows. The next step is to put the snap caps on, and then the sunshade will go on after the sun caps. I mean, the snap caps. This is the loading dock area. This is, I think they've got this side complete now, and they're working over here. This is your typical classroom in area A. It's pretty much ready for finishes. This is a typical corridor in A wing. It's another corridor where in A where they've started the ceilings. They're doing all the ceilings in A wing now. to skylight soffit.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is the building finally sealed?
We have a couple of temporary doors that we're doing tomorrow, but other than that, we're closed in. Yep.
Was that true a month ago? My recollection is that this is a very new, recent achievement.
Oh yeah, yeah. We've had like temporary doors in poly at door openings for a long time.
I know, but there have been places where the weather got in,
Oh yes,
and that's gone, right?
that's 99.9% gone.
Okay. Well, that's an achievement. That
Yes.
should make your work a lot easier. Is that right?
Oh, it's so much easier.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is one of the new unisex bathrooms that they're doing upstairs. You can see the different bright colors. There's 4 of these. Actually, there's 5 of these, and each of these sink walls has a different accent color. So that's pretty. I think it's pretty nice. It's your typical B bathroom. Classroom, and this is the lower level B, and this is ready for finishes. We're going to be the millwork contractor is coming back on Monday. He's going to finish up any miscellaneous millwork that he's got. Like he's got a bench seat to put here, and he's got some cubbies to install. But he's gonna take next week and finish the lower level of B, and then we're going to start getting ready for flooring.
Oh, and the light shelf. Don't forget the light shelf.
On the light shelf. Yep.
Yep.
These are the corridor and Bs. A lot of the rooms have been padded out in this lower level B.
What does that mean, padded out?
The ceiling tiles are installed.
Okay.
In the rooms. That means everything above the ceiling has been complete and inspected. It's like a milestone that, if you say you're padded out, it's an accomplishment because everything above it is complete and inspected and okay, right? So.
Great.
Yeah. This is the cafe. They've started putting the aluminum window frames in between the cafe and the, I always call it a media center, but
Library.
library, yeah. Learning Commons, I think it's noted.
Right.
So Monday, we're going to be doing the furring out here for the wood ceilings.
And you can see the glazing is in at the end there.
Yeah, the curtain wall has been installed at the east side of the cafe, and it's glazed. This is one of the door openings that we need temporary doors installed here. And the gym, actually, I don't know if I have a photo of it, but the gym curtain wall is complete as well with glazing. It's not complete, but it's installed and it has glazing.
Yeah, we could see that from one of the outside aerial shots at the beginning.
Okay. This is what you can see what the note says. This is the beginning of the DOAS unit.
Yay.
We got this is 6 of the 11 pieces. We got number 7 today, 7 and 11 today. So those are in here now as well. Again, this was taken yesterday. So there's 2 more units that have been delivered and brought into this room. We're supposed to have the balance of the DOAS units tomorrow. And if we do get those tomorrow, that means we can start closing in the openings that we had to get these pieces in and wrap up the finishes. And then the MEP installation, it's going pretty well. The heat pumps are getting all piped in. Should be about a week. And we're still waiting on the VFD for the heat pumps, but it looks like we're going to have some temperature control in 3 to 4 weeks. Some more MEP stuff. Oh, and that's my last photo.
Okay. So there's some good news in there. The DOAS unit is,
Yeah.
it got people excited when that showed up. Are there questions for Al?
I just want to say that since the glass is in and so much progress has been made, it is much more encouraging to me than it has been in past months. So I hope everybody is feeling the same. Obviously, a lot more work to be done, but this is beginning to really look like a school.
Yeah, it is. And we're trying to get the subs on board to push this thing through, you know. We talked to some of the subs about working double shifts. Our millwork contractor is very interested in that because he's out in New Jersey. So we should see the millwork go very quickly when he mobilizes and we have the proper temperatures. So yeah,
Okay.
we're hoping for a strong finish here.
Okay. Chris McNamara?
Hey, Al, you said you won't have conditioned spaces for 3 or 4 more weeks. But how can you have the millwork start and the flooring start without that? You're just banking on cooler temperatures?
Yeah, we're banking on cooler temperatures. We talked about it. We had a meeting the other day and we talked about it. And if we have the humidity under control, we're under the AWI, American Woodwork Institute, which has a requirement. We have to be below 90 degrees and we have to be below 55% relative humidity. We've been constantly under 50 relative humidity. So it's just been a temperature thing. And we feel like we're running like mid 80s right now, and we think it's going to go down, in the mid to lower 80s going forward. So we're taking a little chance, but we're gonna monitor it.
Yeah, I think I'll second what Al's saying. I was in there this morning and I was looking at all the humidity readings, and I think there was only one that was like at 54. Everything else was in the 40s. So they're under the 55.
We just don't want that glue to start failing once we start putting it on. So,
Agreed.
yeah, because we could get a spike, it's New England. We could get a couple of hot days still that blow things apart.
Yep.
Al, can you remind us about the gymnasium flooring?
The gymnasium flooring?
Yeah, it's on site now or not?
Yes, it's on site. It's actually inside the pump house, the new pump house.
All of it?
Yep.
Oh.
Okay, any updates on the other items on the procurement log? I mean, the DOAS unit was one of the big ones. Anything else that has changed? Not expecting changes in delivery dates for some of those items?
No major changes, to talk about.
How about the elevator status and progress?
Oh, that's coming next week.
Great.
They were waiting. We wanted them to come like 3 weeks ago when we got permanent power, but they had taken another job, so we had to wait for them to finish that job, and they're supposed to finish this week. So Monday morning, they're supposed to be delivering the elevator.
Okay.
The Coney's pretty fast. They'll probably have this elevator in 3 weeks.
Okay. Other update? Sorry, any other questions for Al? Okay, then I guess we can move on to thanks Al for that. I can move on to the OPM update.
We do architect.
Sorry,
We'll do a quick one. They've been doing some in-place mock-ups. They've been paying attention to my punch lists. I got another one coming out, the field report. So the zinc downspout, soffit, cement board, all those things are looking good. So I'm trying to make a point to get there more often now, since things are moving quite quickly. So far it looks like the team is doing what they need to do. We just got to make sure that we maintain the quality and make sure this thing doesn't leak.
Okay. Chris?
I should have asked Al, the staircase, what's happened with the staircase?
Al, you said there's staircase 2?
Yeah. Right now, the drywall contractor is setting up staging on that platform landing to do the drywall above. Once that drywall is complete, he'll knock down his staging, and then we're going to work on the stair. So we have to modify the 2 stringers, one on each side. We have to raise them up about 5/8 of an inch.
And then the rails, the corners of all the rails need to be
Right.
adjusted.
Correct.
And the bottom stringer as well.
The bottom stringer has been corrected.
Yeah, they
Oh,
shimmed
good.
it.
Yeah.
Great.
And actually, while we're on the subject, the steel contractor had a detail on a shop drawing that showed that top tread 5 inches below, 5/8 of an inch below the floor slab elevation. That's why we're low. So, but we told him to correct it. So he's raising those up 5/8 of an inch.
Okay. So then that concludes your report also, Jeff?
Yes.
Don't want to skip and move ahead. Okay, now OPM update.
Talent. So I'll be pretty brief because we got a number of proposed change orders and things of that nature to go through. In terms of kind of high-level focus, and before I had talked about September 6th and September is furniture delivery and what the building should look like in advance of that. Furniture will not be delivered in September, as you saw. The building isn't ready for it. So to kind of provide additional clarity onto what the group can look at and look towards in terms of the next set of schedule to kind of identify how progress is moving. The meeting that Al had referenced a little bit ago yesterday, we took a walk of the site and spent some time drilling down as to what the sort of the top 3 or so critical components were that are driving the rest of the progress. And in short summary, obviously the completion of the DOAS unit, which is good, all the components are in. It still has about a month worth of putting it together and getting it started up to go through. There's approximately a month of the heat pumps, which is the other critical component to the HVAC system, getting those up and running. Newfield has found a way to get some temporary variable frequency drives to get it so that the system can start moving while the real variable frequency drives are coming onto site. So that approximately also take a month. And at the same time, there is the flooring, which not only has the temperature and humidity control items that we talked about, but there's also compatibility with the existing concrete floor, basically all to do with the glue and making sure that the glue is appropriate. It's not going to come up, passes all the tests, works chemically with the concrete that was poured, etc. So right now, Newfield is coordinating with Jeff and Colliers and most importantly, the manufacturer, the flooring manufacturer, to identify what is the answer moving forward. Once that process is known, there's approximately also about a month worth of putting down additional floor primer, what have you, or whatever the resolution is for the flooring glue to get put down. So the short story is that at the end of September is when these 3 critical components should be either done or wrapping up. And that will release the final leg of work to be done. So the finishes and things on top of the flooring in the individual classrooms, and the finalization of the mechanical systems, etc. So that's the high level vision to keep in mind in terms of those 3 items and how that impacts the rest of the building. So that's just the reframing I wanted to kind of share, as there's a million bits and pieces and Stair 2 and this eBay and those 3 are the ones that are really driving what's going on for the building itself. Any questions on that before we move on to the PCOs and approvals and that kind of thing?
Chris, go ahead.
I'm just curious, what did you do to get some kind of temporary VFD thing going on? Because we talked about that at the last meeting, that was a piece that was.
Yeah. Al, do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, our contractor started calling up other vendors, and we finally found one that's compatible. It's not the right one, and we need more than one, but one will get us going, so it was good news.
Great, because I keep seeing those Dollar Generals going all over the place. I hope they could chip in a little bit.
Okay, then I guess on to PCOs.
So I'll share my screen here. This first item, there's no action item from the committee per se, but it is an update from an approval that came through from the expedited subcommittee with Randy, Peter Dart, Ryan Ellsworth, and Kathy regarding some additional asbestos containing mastic in the old building that was basically at the interface of the slab and the foundation walls. So underneath all the finishes, all that, you couldn't see the hazardous materials couldn't see it underneath all the existing items in the building. But when they finished ripping off the top part of the building, you see all the concrete left. This was uncovered. So it was tested, found to have asbestos in it. So the remediation of it isn't in question. It's just an item where they're looking to start ripping out those concrete foundations, and it is additional discovered work. So the construction change directive number 9 was approved by the subcommittee to get started. This is being tracked on a time and materials basis because it's not quite known how far some of the asbestos extends. Is it underneath the slab by several feet? Is it not? What have you? Moreover, the process for removing it may change depending on how difficult it is to take out the chunks of the concrete. Does it make more sense to go fast and save time, but have more concrete that needs asbestos disposal? Or should they spend more time in trying to pick apart the little pieces and minimize the amount of waste, but spend more time on labor and extend the demolition process? So this is going to be a substantial additional cost, probably on the order of $50,000 to $100,000, something like that, just because asbestos is expensive to dispose of when it's attached to concrete and it has to be shipped off to a plant that can handle that. But the work is scheduled to start on Monday, and what will occur is both the hazardous materials consultant and Joe Luciano from Colliers, when he's on site, will be observing, identifying the processes it's going through. And then on the Thursday owners meeting, we'll have a couple days worth of data to determine if the process is going well, does it need to change to better suit time and cost, that kind of thing. So again, there's no action item for the committee necessarily, but this is an item coming through that will result in a potential change order for work that it needs to be done and it's to be abated and remediated. Any questions on that before I move on to items that have some action for the committee?
Okay.
So the first item is for storage of FF&E. So as I mentioned earlier, the original target in coordination with Newfield was the September delivery of FF&E. That's not going to be practical based on construction progress. So in lieu of trying to bring it to the site, risk damage, potentially void warranties, that kind of thing, the appropriate measure is to have the vendors just store them and then deliver them at a later time. To that point, we've had TSKP reached out to the various vendors, got the costs associated with storage for up to 3 months. And that way, once construction hits a point where we're confident it can be delivered, we'll just stop the storage fees and have them come and deliver it. But the bulk total for storage up to 3 months across all the various furniture packages is $48,880. So the motion that's in your packets is for an amount not to exceed that amount. And then once the delivery time is known, we can reduce it based on the individual vendors and what can be brought to the site in a safe manner.
Okay, questions, Chris?
Yeah, I assume that this is beneficial. Here's where I'm headed. Moving it here, in other words, nearby, we would then have to move it again. And currently the costs are whatever they are because we're only moving it once. That's one of the benefits, right, of having them keep it?
That's one of the benefits. Another benefit, or rather,
The warranty then.
Yes. If they move it someplace where they're not storing it, there are vendors that might not warranty if they have to well, it was stored at your whatever facility. I couldn't guarantee what it was. So your warranty isn't void because I didn't place it in its final location.
Did we
So-
pursue any space around here at all? I'm thinking of, retail space, for example. Is there space in the mall? And again, I don't know whether the numbers make sense still. If you've got to then have the place conditioned in some form and you've got to move it yet again. But $48,000 is still a lot of money for 3 months. And, there's the A&P, the old A&P up near Four Corners. There are a couple of odds and ends of places that seem secure and seem like they would be whatever, the air conditioning and so forth.
The answer to your question, we did not explore those largely due to the warranty concerns.
Right.
So even if it was a comparable or lesser cost, we run into that potential issue with the vendors.
Okay. Thanks. That's all I've got.
All right, is there a motion then to increase purchase order amounts for the FF&E vendors or FF&E storage for up to 3 months by an amount not to exceed $48,880?
Randy, can I just ask a quick question?
Oh, sure, go ahead. Don't mean to cut you off.
I'm sorry, Adam, where it says no fee, comma, confirmed, that means that Lakeshore and the other company, I don't remember, have confirmed that they're not charging.
That is correct.
I didn't see that comma before. And so I was wondering when you said not to exceed that amount, I was like, well, wait a minute, what if they come back with more? Got it.
Oh,
Thank you.
they're good.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
I move
Okay, all right. Chris will
the
make. the
FF&E motion, yeah.
Okay, as I stated it, and is there a second? Mary? Any other questions? Oh, Chris?
Jeff or whoever at your office, does this seem a reasonable amount? I mean, it's great these people aren't charging, those that aren't. But the ones that are, is the fee that they're charging usurious? Is it reasonable? What's your sense of it? Any discussion on that?
Well, I
If none,
mean,
let's move on, but
yeah, I think Adam and Susan have been dealing with them directly, so I think they've exhausted as much as they could do. And it's unfortunate. I hate to see that, but that's what we have to do.
Okay. Any other questions before we take the vote? Okay, seeing none, then all in favor of the motion to increase the purchase order for the FF&E vendors, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay.
All right, the next item doesn't have, the next two items rather do not have backup per se. They're increases to purchase orders. We've done this a number of times for various vendors. So the first one is for Independent Materials Testing Lab, increasing their amount by $35,000 for ongoing services for the testing they've been doing. And similarly for WB Meyer, who's the mover, increasing their amount for moving services. So they've done the first leg of moving out of Southeast and the various interim moves from Goodwin and Vinton, and they've been storing the items in trailers. So this is to increase their purchase order by $50,000 to contemplate some of the ongoing storage and then ultimately starting the work to bring it back into Southeast. There will likely need to be another increase in the future, probably not to the extent of another 50,000 necessarily, but at this point, we just want to make sure we're covered in terms of their bills.
Okay, Tony first and then Chris McNamara.
I just want an assurance that this is all still covered by our contingency allotment so that we're not running over anywhere.
Correct. Everything that presented tonight is well contemplated by the contingencies for the various budgets that were originally established.
can I just add on to that? Is this the testing budget also? What was the testing budget? Are we still within that? We adding into it?
The testing budget is a little over what the original budget was. The original budget was that 130. Basically, the unsuitable soils and things that were encountered needed testing as they went through.
Thank you.
And that was my question, Adam, the testing increases because of the unsuitable soils, or there's in addition to that, some,
There are various components throughout the building. You know, when we're building the budget for a project, it's well before we know what the design of the building is going to be. So if there are more nuts and bolts or pieces that need to be tested in order to account for that, it's an estimate, and then, you know, the contingency covers any bufferage over that. So it's not unheard of to have slightly more testing costs depending on the type of building that's constructed versus just a dollar per square foot number when you're building a broad-based budget for $50 million.
so this has nothing to do with the asbestos in the foundation of Southeast.
No, the asbestos in Southeast is tested by Langen. They're separate from IMTL.
Okay, and the additional moving costs, I mean, we already planned, we knew we were gonna have to move out of the other two schools and hold on to stuff before it got in, so what's the additional?
This was the original budget for moving was 100,000. So far, we've just released the first 50 for this. So we do it in chunks, so it's not just floating out in the air.
Thank you. I move that we vote on the two motions about the testing and the WB Meyer
Okay, I think we should do this.
Second,
separately.
Okay, we have to do these separately. So first one is to increase the purchase order for IMTL from 130,000 to 165,000. And that'll be a motion from Chris, seconded by Chris Kiefner. Any final comments, questions? Then all in favor, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, and then a similar motion to increase the PO amount for W. Meyer from 50,000 to 100,000 for moving and storage services. And again, that will be Chris McNabo, seconded by Chris Kiefner. Any comments, questions? Then all in favor, please indicate. And any opposed or abstentions? Okay.
Next on the list, I'll re-share my screen. We'll get into the potential change orders for Newfield. Okay, you should be looking at those right now. So the first one is PCO 35R2. This came up a while back with regard to power and data to the stage. So to help utilize that space more effectively as a potential teaching area, things of that nature. That was discussed back when Kelly was still here and looking to help utilize that space more effectively. So that's for the 7335.
Okay, questions on that? Okay, then is there a motion to approve PCO 35R2 dated 8/15/2022 in the amount of $7,335.11 for power and data to the stage?
So moved.
Okay, Chris McNabo, second for Madison. Then all in favor, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, thank you.
Second item is PCO 60R. This is for 23-21. There was an issue with a conflict between the window openings and the dimensions between the door frames at the edge of the wall. And the framer basically had to come back and readjust the framing opening size because there was some miscommunication about how big the windows actually were.
Yeah, I'll just say a couple things on this. That's the area at the service where the epay hits the zinc at a sort of acute angle. It opens up. So I think the exterior elevations, I didn't show a dimension on that last one, knowing that in the field, we're going to have to resolve that. So this is a consequence of that to make sure that the blocking was done for the window size that we needed to put in there.
Okay. Questions from the committee? Okay. Is there a motion to approve PCO 060R dated 8/15/2022 for $2,321.12 for resizing, relocating window openings in area B? Okay, thank you, Chris. And second, Kathy. All in favor, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions?
Right. Next item, PCO 83R for $719. There was some conflict between some of the wall types along the art room and the toilet room. So this is to reconfigure one of the walls to allow the acoustic wall panels to actually sit flush back as opposed to protruding from the wall.
Is this from the change we made to the one classroom to make it more acoustically? No, is this a different area?
Yeah, this is the wall between the cafeteria and the kitchen. Well, where the kitchen becomes the dishwashing area where the tray drop is, there's a toilet next to that. And what we ended up doing was moving that wall slightly to limit the cost of this, getting it down to $700 to offset any furring and stuff they do up above to make sure that it lines up and the acoustical panel is straight. Yeah, there was a couple little issues there in the field, and we needed to do that to make it aesthetically and physically functional to make sure the acoustic wall panel is in the same plane as the sheetrock above and below.
Where is the aesthetic benefit? It's not in the bathroom, is it?
Both. It's everywhere. See, in architecture, you have to affect the spirit on many levels. So it doesn't matter where it is. That's our responsibility. So it has to be straight and lined up.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve PCO 83R for $719.51 to shift the walls? Mary, thank you. Is there a second? Kathy, thanks. All in favor of approving PCO 83R, please indicate. Any objection or abstention?
I'll abstain.
Okay, all right. Tasha, I think you've got that.
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
Next item, PCO 102R. This one is for $35,350. Jeff, do you want to just explain this one?
Yeah, it's on my last site observation report. I noticed when I was there that the south wall of the gym, in the area where there's an egress way out of the gym, had a sloping roof edge, and our exterior elevations show a horizontal condition, but evidently the structural drawings show it sloped following the trusses. So Newfield had built the wall at an angle, and I noticed when they put the Z-gird up at an angle, I said, well, I don't think we don't have any condition in the building where there's a slope condition where there's E-pay. So I pointed out that the exterior elevation shows everything's horizontal. So we went back and forth. Collier stepped in as a sort of mediator and said, look, if we got to get this done, we got to do it. So this is in front of you, not to exceed. There are two conditions, one at the south there of the gym. And my main concern is there's a roof drain not far from there. And if anything does snow build up or anything does, God forbid it plugs up, it's going to overflow on that corner down to the egress path. And we can't have that. For me, it's both an aesthetic and a safety issue there. There's another condition, if you want to point to that, Adam. It's a smaller condition where the same thing, that's like a 4.5-inch drop where the steel followed the sloping of the roof. And I believe that can be done with a very short 4.5-inch similar detail of how they'll do the other one, or they'll use a pressure treated wood blocking. It's only 4.5 inches. They're basically two triangles. That one, the square foot is 6.6. The south gym wall is about 34.5 square feet on each elevation. So this is put forward to make sure that we get this done. We're still making sure that things look real in terms of the numbers and the framing and the who owns what, because I believe that we have the E-pay exterior wall, we have the fascia, we have the wood trim. So all that's clearly shown in the drawings. So anything that was needed for backup, Z-girt wise, sheathing, ABB, we already bought. So what I'm looking at is the parapet framing and potentially some sheathing on the other side and some roofing to lace the system in. So that's how this has come up.
Okay. Questions? Okay. Oh, Chris?
I'd just like to comment, I'm in favor of doing this, very much so, but I'm frustrated that it's put back in our cost court this way. I'm feeling like I'm paying double for it. It's sort of like the frame for the Statue of Liberty gets delivered and then there's a guess made by the contractor as to what the thing looks like that goes on top of it, what's draped on top of it. And they never looked, apparently didn't look at the drawings to see how to build it from any perspectives, elevations, and that to me doesn't feel like my mistake.
Well, in fairness, and not in fairness, because I'm opposed to this sort of reasoning, but in my mind, the contract documents are the contract documents, but there is a point where in structural, they do show a bent plate that's at an angle. The exterior elevations, if that was looked at, somebody would rightly say, hey, look, we can't do both. Which is it, Mr. Architect? And then I would have told them which way to do it. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. So here we are. We got to have it happen, and we'll get it resolved.
Chris, if I could just chime in, we did spend quite a bit of time looking at the details, the issues as far as overall coordination. This is being tracked as an E&O on the architect side. I will say, though, that TSKP is still well below the threshold, contractual threshold, for any damages from that standpoint. So as much as it is unfortunate, the architects aren't perfect. The contract reflects that and acknowledges that there will be issues, from a coordination standpoint that the owner would be responsible to pay for. So, we do feel that, listing it as an E&O is accurate.
Okay. Thanks, Scott.
Okay. Is there a motion then to approve PCO 102R dated 8/24/2022 for the amount not to exceed $35,350.61 for the gym parapets?
So moved.
Thank you, Chris. And then second, sorry, Madison's hand. Any final questions? Okay, then all in favor, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay.
Okay. Next is PCO 104. This is for $2,751 for modifying the gym walls, not at the parapet level, but at the base. Jeff, I think it's another one that you've better to explain. If you're on mute.
Yeah, this was a condition where the foundation was poured in the wrong stepping pattern. So rather than pull it out, we got them to do this. They cut a section of that concrete, the upper left and the yellow there, back. And then what we're going to do, since there's all kinds of electrical conduits and stuff in there, we padded that out with some sheetrock and some furring.
Oh, this isn't where you did the block thing? The concrete block?
The concrete block.
It's in front of this.
The sizes of the blocks, Jeff, the cutting the blocks.
Oh no, that's a whole different issue. This is before the blocks even went up. This is the foundation that follows the slope of the grade. So there was a section that needed to be cut back, and then so that we can have sheetrock cover it. And they padded it out.
Okay. If any other questions on this? Then is there a motion to approve PCO 104 for the amount of $2,751.12 for modification of the base of the exterior gym wall? Thank you, Tony. Second, Madison. All in favor then of the motion, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay.
Last new field change order is for $1,500, adding electrical power to lobby L101 for the digital display. So this question came up a few months ago, and when double checking with the electrical contractor and the drawings, the outlet never got translated. The actual physical outlet never got translated to the drawings, just the AV scope. So this is for providing the actual power to that location to power the digital display that'll have that front energy dashboard.
Okay, so this is going to be right at the entrance there where they have the television screen. Questions on this? Okay, seeing none, then is there a motion to approve PCO 105 for the amount of $1,567.59? Thank you,
So
Madison. Madison, second, Rich. All in favor, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay.
So now we're on to non-new field work. This is a change order related to the intersection work just down the road on Warrenville Road. This has been coordinated with and the scope approved by the assistant town engineer, Derek Delage. Essentially, there were some electrical pole boxes that were supposed to have been in the existing road that weren't there and were needed for that electrical scope. So this scope is to provide those pole boxes as well as relocating one of the pedestrian pedestals that was existing into a location to align with ADA compliances. This is for $8,400. One thing that the town engineer wanted to just make note of, because the scope went, or the installation of the intersection work went much more quickly than anticipated, there should be a sizable credit coming back to the project for the reduction in having the police officer out there and their time to help manage traffic and that sort of thing. So that the anticipated credit for that amount of work is far greater than the $8,400 for this change order, just for the purposes of helping align where we're at budget for this scope.
Do we know when we'll find out what that credit ultimately is?
It would be at the end of the actual roadway work, so that way it's all just one nice buttoned up reconciliation. So I would anticipate in a month or two.
Okay. Chris?
Adam, you said that this should have been included. Was it, when you say that, do you mean somebody forgot about it, or just, what do you mean?
The drawings that the initial design were based off of showed them as a part of an existing survey, but they weren't actually there's underground. So when the survey was created, it was based off of someone's survey, based off someone's survey. So when they actually went to go utilize them, they weren't there. And they couldn't be located in the field as part of the actual work. So it wasn't that the town's designer missed it. They were just basing it off of information that was inaccurate on a prior survey provided to them, I believe, by the town.
But these things weren't specified in the plans then at all? To have posts or whatever?
Correct. They didn't anticipate needing to specify them because they thought they existed already and they could just utilize the existing ones.
Thank you.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve change order 2 dated 8/22/2022 for the Nunes companies in the amount of $8,469.86 for these improvements at that intersection? Thank you, Madison. Second from Mary. All in favor, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay.
And unless there are other items, questions or comments on the change orders, I would say we can move on to the invoices packet if that's your pleasure.
Yep.
So the invoice packet for this month, July, has a $3 million Newfield pay application number 15 with an additional approximately $470,000 worth of the various other vendors in terms of their pay applications. The one thing just to note For Newfield's pay application, I coordinated with both Al and Jeff. You notice that the numbers for that application don't match up in terms of what was applied for versus the amount that was approved. There was one vendor that has not submitted their statutorily required certified payrolls to ensure that they were paying prevailing wage. Does not mean that they didn't pay prevailing wage. It's just that they are behind in their paperwork. So that amount was reduced from this pay application to account for the fact that they don't have the documents in. And so it's just part of the process that they need to know to submit those documents. I anticipate that they'll get them in the right order, and we'll have the remainder of their that portion of their pay application as part of the next issuance. But for this one, we didn't want to put it out for approval before we get all the documents we need.
Okay, questions? Then is there a motion for approving this invoice package? Mary, I see your hand. Thank you.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve monthly invoice packet for July, dated today, August 25th, 2022, including invoices from BVH, CES, Colliers Project Leaders, IMTL, Langen, R&B, TSKP Studios, WB Meyer, and Weston and Sampson in the amount of $445,000. I got to do that again, or I'm going to get demoted from this job. $445,861.48. And Newfield's application for payment number 15 in the amount of $3,030,566.89 for a total approval of $3,476,428.37.
Thank you, Mary. Is there a second? Okay, Kathy, thanks. Any final questions? Then all in favor of approving the motion, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. Adam, I believe that concludes everything you've got for us.
Yep, I think that's it.
Okay. That brings us then to the opportunity for public input. Is there anybody from the public that would like to address the committee? Okay, seeing none, then okay, Brian, are you trying to? Yes, Brian, go ahead.
Good evening. I got a couple of things I'd like to say. One, I asked the chair of the school building committee to help me out with supporting documentation on the website included with the agenda and the minutes. I was looking for the entire packet, the architect's report, the construction report, the contractor's report, including any PCOs that will be included. And I have not seen that, and I was unable to research this particular meeting tonight ahead of time. It would have been helpful if I had that opportunity.
Brian, I would just say that I believe there is a link there. I clicked on it and I believe there is one that is live. But okay, we will make sure that it's there.
Okay. I see a lot of gross errors made by the contractor, and the PCOs that are coming forward are contractor error. And I don't believe the town should be paying a dime for any of this. If it's a contract error, it's a contract error, and it really should be the responsibility of the contractor, not the town of Mansfield. So I'm in disagreement on paying any PCO where there's a contractor error involved. Also, on this asbestos abatement, I'm curious as to why that the foundation and the concrete that's now known to contain asbestos was not tested ahead of time.
I can answer that if
We,
someone wants an answer. Yes.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Brian,
If it could be, so Al, it's got to be really brief, and we're not supposed to engage in dialogue, but if it was like-
the asbestos tar was in the existing slab, where the slab met the foundation wall, so you could not have seen it with the naked eye.
Is this a common problem?
It's a common problem in that era of addition that we're dealing with, and it's one piece of that school. That's
Okay, maybe a
It's a
little
certain year.
foresight into that might help. But thank you. That's all I have for now.
Okay, all right, thank you. Then that brings us to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move we adjourn.
Then second, Mary, then if you acquiesce and you agree, you can sign off. And we'll see you next time.
Be well all.
Thank you, Randy.
Bye.